Hey guys, long time no see or talk or whatever. A lot has gone down with the 86 build. Honestly, a lot has gone down with life recently, and I haven't had the time to update you, but today I'm going to do that. I'm also going to do something crazy to the 86, I think, which is what prompted me to start this video anyway. I'm gonna flip the camera around so you don't have to stare at me while I talk, and I'll kind of talk about what I did with the 86, and then I'll tell you what I'm about to do, and I'll do a little bit of filming. Bunch is new with the 86 recently. I built a custom gauge cluster. I wired up some switches for the fuel pump and the ignition. I installed some old throwback pieces like old cruise control, stuff like that. I made an operational headlight on indicator button thing. I kind of restored a bunch of the interior pieces, so I actually have a bit of an OEM look, I guess. And then if you hit this button, and then you hit that and it'll start it. And then right here, it lets you know your lights are on. But yeah, so I've been working on that. I have a Melee Design Firm battery that I will be putting in the trunk and replacing this, whatever is going on in the trunk now. That's what's kind of happening now. Temporarily, I had to bypass that cutoff because it actually went bad when I was doing my wiring for the cluster and everything. But all of this is going to be completely different. So the plans are, before I do the battery, I'm going to buy a fuel cell. I'm going to completely cut out the spare wheel well, which is going to get rid of a little bit. There's a little bit of corrosion on the bottom here. So by cutting that out, I'll be getting rid of some corrosion, which is some of the only corrosion on this car. And then I'll be able to put a fuel cell in there. So it's not going to be internal, it's going to be external with access panels inside. And then I'm going to mount the battery, probably somewhere up here, over there, somewhere. I'm not really sure yet. But that's where that little battery is going to go back here. The reason why I'm going fuel cell is because my sending unit is, it's bad. And when you pull this cover off and you look at the hardware securing it into the fuel tank, those are corroded so bad that they just disintegrate when you touch them. So I don't really feel like messing with that. Yeah, so the fuel cell is gonna fix a bunch of problems I have with the car. It's gonna solve a lot of my, it's gonna help me save money to solve a lot of those little issues that I have. Now that that's out of the way and the cluster's out of the way, I could show you the engine bay just because I did just put these on, although my wiper motors and everything aren't wired, and I'm waiting on the blades, and then I could start wiring that. So this is kind of the condition it's in now. As it sits, I have a slight leak out of my water pump, so I am going to order a new one. My fuel pressure regulator down there doesn't want to adjust, so it drops below like 5 PSI, which is generally necessary for a street car on a carb setup. So I need to do that. I'll order that, and then I will make a return line setup so I can have a fuel pressure and return line fuel setup with the fuel pressure regulator, and I'll get my consistent values, and I won't run the risk of vapor lock because I'll have a return line. Let's see, what else have I done? We were working on getting the pop-ups to work, which is why the harnesses are out. However, that is going to be postponed for another day. Today, what I want to do is finally start working on the fender flare replacements. So these are slightly wider than the OEMs. I guess you could call those like the OEM fender flares. They're just kind of built in. The reason why I want to do it, you can kind of see it now, is because these little arches have been clapped. This is actually the best one. So you can tell how bad this was. I don't know what happened here. That's rough. This whole thing is really rough, but the condition, not counting the paint, the condition of this fender is not in a bad state. So I can retain this. I'm just gonna cut this off, and then I'm gonna weld the replacement on. I'm gonna do the same for the rear. So the rear this is the best one, which you could still see some ripples in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off. I'm gonna do the whole like wide body proper sealant and whatnot like that. This is the worst one. This one, it looks like somebody took vice grips to. I don't know if you've watched a previous video that I've done on this car, but this is absolutely terrible. So cutting this off is gonna do this car a favor. This one's pretty bad too. Like I said, they're all pretty roasted. I'm gonna start on the front. So I'm gonna jack the car up, pull this wheel off, and then I'm gonna start working that one. While I'm at it, I might go ahead and just fill that hole because I don't plan on running an OEM antenna anytime soon. Okay, sorry, that was a long-winded, I guess, about and what I've been up to. So I'm gonna go ahead and start that, and then I'll kind of like keep you along for the ride as I cut and I weld or whatever. I did get a used MIG welder that's gonna make this job super, super easy. So I'm excited to be able to breeze through this process with that. I was gonna update you on the WRX progress and the FRS and stuff like that, but I'm actually gonna wait for that. So much has changed on that car, and honestly both of the cars, that I don't want to jam all that information in just this one video. We'll just focus on the 86 and we'll move on from there. So I got the car jacked up a little bit. I got the wheel off. I'm gonna drill holes all around it, cleco it into place, and then I'm going to pretty much mark where I need to cut and then cut it. First thing you'll notice is I didn't mask anything. Why would you mask when the whole car is gonna get painted anyway? So I'm not really worried about that. I went ahead, I mocked it up into position. I secured as many clecos as I could within reason to keep it as flush as I possibly could against the parent metal. And then I'm gonna go through, and where each one of those tacks are, or each one of those are, there's gonna be a tack. And then I'm gonna start here, tack, 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 tack. And I'm gonna jump around until this full lip is full of tacks. Hanging off in the front, that's gonna be addressed. That ultimately, how this turns out will ultimately depend on the bumper over there. And then I got to figure out a way to close that gap on the bottom because that edge right there kind of sticks off. But I'm pretty pleased with it. It's stuck below that original body line, which I want to maintain. I want to maintain that whole little body line right there. So I'm gonna pull this, I'm gonna mark a line on the inside, which I don't even know if there's room to, and then I'm gonna basically cut up to those points. The rough line, which is pretty much where the OEM fender kind of comes off. You can see on the bottom, I left that pretty straight because I don't want to cut too much material. I might be able to use this bottom area and kind of form it to where I want it to be to meet up with this bottom piece. The line cut out real quick. I got the paint pulled up. Obviously I got the holes in there. So now I'm gonna pop this into place, make sure I have enough clean metal. And then I'm gonna fully cleco everything into place. And then I'm gonna start tacking it up. I figured I'd go ahead and show you what it looked like kind of clecoed on with that metal. So So the whole point of clearing that paint away from that lip is that you don't want to like have a contaminated weld. Even on the inside, I don't know if I could show you, but the way I made it so when it's welded on, this lip runs seamlessly. I did that, oh, it's hard to show you, but I did that all the way around so you won't catch the lip at all. Got all the tacks done. I got it pretty much as smooth as I could get it, or as flush against that parent metal as I could get it. So I'm gonna let it cool a little bit, and then I'm just gonna repeat that process until until that whole seam is completely filled. The only thing I'm not gonna do, I'm gonna stop at that corner because I need to do a little bit of work down there. And then I'm gonna stop pretty much at that tack because I'm gonna need some work here too. Back, I tacked all the way around it, and then I ground down all the tacks all the way across. I went ahead and I kind of blended this bottom into it. I have to trim that little tip though, and then I still have to figure out this front section right here. I'm calling it a night. Some final notes. So I replicated how the OEM terminates. I fit the bumper up, and I can't just cut it and then mount that other piece to it. I have to cut it, and then I have to figure out some fiberglass method on the current bumper to blend it up into it. You can see how it comes out right there. Probably tomorrow I'll pick up on some Bondo. I probably got to pull that paint line back a little bit more, that way I could Bondo. And then probably throw a coat of primer on there, and then maybe start on the other side. All right, try not to judge me too hard. This is my first time actually Bondoing anything. What I did was I sanded it, I cleaned it, I primered it, I sanded that, I re-cleaned it, and then I applied the Bondo all the way across that mating surface. I'm gonna start shaping it around like this body line right here. Obviously I gotta shape that up to that little body line that I want to keep, and then same thing down here. First layer of Bondo has been laid and sanded. You can see some deep spots, so I got to go back over those. A little bit of deep spots here. I didn't even touch this side yet. So this is how the passenger side went. A lot of you guys on social media were asking why it looks like it's not centered, like the wheel should be further back. It's because the wheel is supposed to be further back. So the wheel, the caster is pushed forward from the previous owner because this was his designated drift car. I plan on shifting the caster back to OEM specs, so that should center the wheel on, within the wheel well area. Other than that, this side is pretty much done. I painted it so it didn't corrode or anything, obviously. So now the driver's side. Should be plenty of room to take care of the tacks without burning any paint or contaminating any welds. That's roughly where I'm gonna cut, similar to the other side. With all this, I'm good to tack. I almost have everything welded. I'm working that area down there. I have all these. Got one more hole to patch down there.